This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
Hello.
Hello. Guys, hang on. If I sound terrible, it's because I'm sick. So bear with me.
Yeah.
If I sound a little bit like a man.
She's a bit under the weather, so if she doesn't contribute much, or what she does contribute, it's rubbish.
That's why.
You might not be able to tell, actually, from other weeks, but she is feeling a little bit under the weather.
Aren't you funny? Jokes.
Guys, as always, we appreciate having you with us. Wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, it means a lot that you choose to listen to us. This week's episode, we are diving into the age-old question, no pun intended, of the age gap in relationships. Now, we'll be talking all things, does it matter? Should it matter? Is it possible to be too old or too young for someone? Does it work? Can it work? And, is it creepy, or is age truly just a number when it comes to dating? So we're going to get into all that and, see if we can slowly pick apart this issue until we, maybe get some answers for you, but also maybe not. Our Ask Mum and Dad this week comes from a girl who's wondering if right person, wrong time is truly a thing, or if it is just a saying. And I dare say she has probably asked the right people when it comes to that. So we will get into that at the end of the episode. But before we do get into, the juicy stuff, there's something that I need to, a door we opened weeks ago, and it's kind of been a recurring thing, which you've brought up a couple of times, because I was genuinely flabbergasted with Jad's take on this and our producer.
Oh, I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I'm glad, but I just want to close the loop because it's stressing me out. But back a couple of weeks ago, we were speaking about engagement rings and giving them back if you split up with someone, right? And I just want, Jad, you remind people of your take, please, and perhaps maybe the reasons why you feel the way you feel, just before we get into this.
Well, I said it's circumstantial, but I think there are many cases in which you keep the ring.
Okay, and one was cheating, but what are the other many cases?
Well, like toxic relationship.
But who decides whether it's toxic?
Maybe if you paid for everything in the relationship, that's all he ever paid for was the ring. Okay,
and my sort of take on it was that I dare say it's probably never really okay to keep it, because some people spend, you could probably get one for $1,000, couple of grand, and some people probably spend, a third, half a year's salary on it, depending on how they think it should be. But some, upwards of 20, 30 grand, you never know. So I think that keeping that when you split up with someone is abysmal in my humble opinion. But Jad's obviously thinking
resale value is also not the same.
So. It's not about the resale value.
What's
though.
It about then?
It's just about it not being yours to keep.
Wrong.
When
you give someone a gift, it's theirs.
Okay.
End of conversation.
It's not a gift, though. We've spoken about this.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not a gift. It's the thing that solidifies that you're going to get married, and if you're not getting married, you don't get the thing that does
theirs,
that, right?
Right?
It's theirs if you're getting married.
Do you think you own this ring right now?
I don't think I own it. It's yours.
So it's mine. Case is closed.
If you chose to divorce me, I would think it would be weird if you kept the thing that was like our, the symbol of our unity.
If
together.
I left you because you cheated on me, I would not only take this ring, but I would try to take everything you've ever owned in your whole life, just to be clear. So
awesome.
just so you know what you're in for.
Okay, so in what scenario am I getting it back?
If it was amicable, we both it just totally drifted. We had a really good friendship still. We were co-parenting really well. And I just respected the fact that I know that you'd want the ring back for God knows what reason. Give it to the next chick.
Literally every star possible on the planet has to align for me to get that ring back.
Yes.
Maybe one day. Okay, so now that you've put your stance forward...
Sorry, you're planning on leaving me? What's doing?
No,
I'm concerned about how often you bring this up.
I was just interested. No, the reason why I did is because a listener actually reached out to me who's a lawyer, and she's actually solved the debate for us, so it's no longer a debate.
Solved the debate?
Yeah, she has.
Love to hear
this. And so, guys, I just want to let you know that I had someone reach out to me. She works in the, in the Australian legal system. She says, the engagement ring debate answer. Hi there, I'm a law student and I had to write in to confirm that, Lachie, you're actually correct about the engagement ring predicament.
Oh.
If the person who was given the ring later calls off the engagement, they must return the ring. This is from a case Cohen v. Stella. So it's actually a legal precedent in Australia.
So if the person who was given the ring calls off the engagement, what about the other way around?
I'm not actually sure about that, but I would assume...
of course you neglected to ask.
I would assume that it would be a similar situation.
It sounds like not, because she's very specifically said if the person who was given the ring calls off the engagement.
Okay.
Not if the engagement's over.
So what if you cheated on me?
Also, sorry, she says engagement, not marriage.
Yeah, engagement. That's what we're speaking about. Like, as in if you're engaged and before you get married.
Oh, I thought you meant just period, like at any stage.
I actually do. Like, personally, I think it should be before you get married or if you're married.
I have a few questions for this lady.
Okay.
Firstly, are you for the girls? Sounds like not.
No, she's for the law, obviously, because she works in law.
Okay, well, I think
And
for the
people who
girls
work in
comes
law
above the law.
Normally have a respect for the law. But I just want you to know that not only should you morally give it back, but you actually, by law, have to give it back.
If I
in
call
Australia.
it off, I'm just not going to call it off. I'm going to force you to call it off by making your life hell.
Yeah, but I think I'll actually ask that because that's a good question. But I'm like 99% sure that, let's say you cheated on me and then I call it off, I would still be,
Yeah, no, that's what I
The
want to
ring
know.
would
I'm
still be mine.
curious. And then also if it applies when you're already married. Love to know that too.
Yeah,
Please ask
okay.
follow-up questions.
Oh, so this loop's not closed then.
You've not
'cause I have
done
to-
much research at
I
all.
have to
let's
keep
be
following
honest.
it up. But I just want you to know that there's legal precedent and, that if,
In one specific scenario, we're actually no longer engaged, so that doesn't apply to me. All good. Let's go.
All right, Jad seems like a bit angry about this, guys. Yeah, I'm not coming for the ring. I'm not leaving you.
Sounds like you
I
are.
just don't like that you think that girls should keep the ring. I just think it's not on.
I don't like that you think we shouldn't.
Yeah, but your argument's rubbish.
Argument's rubbish.
All right, guys. I thought that would kind of be settled, and Jad would take that and go, "Oh,
so
okay."
unsettled.
I guess if the law says, but I think she thinks she's above the law here.
Yeah,
So.
100%.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, let's get stuck into the age gap debate. All right, guys. Now let's talk about a topic that's often, I would say, whispered about, sometimes judged, but I would say is rarely sort of truly unpacked, which is the age gap debate when it comes to dating and relationships. Now, first of all, before we get stuck in, let's just what would you, Jad, consider to be an age gap? Because we have one, right? 3 years, but I wouldn't say that contributes to the age gap debate.
No,
I don't think that's what people are talking about.
We're talking about a big age gap.
Yeah, so what's your definition? So we're on the same page.
I feel like
guess.
10 years you're dancing on the line, depends, if you're 30 and 40, kind of, or doesn't seem that crazy. So definitely depends on what I think age you are kind of comes into it. It's 15 and 25, bit how you going.
Well, I mean, very how you going.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Australia.
Exactly. Yeah. So it depends, but I think I start going, that's a big gap when there's 15 at least years between a couple.
Okay. And I would say, I would classify it as probably, I would think 10 is to me,
Sure.
Gets to be the point where you might notice it, you might not want to notice it, but you might look and double take a couple because, 10 years, might show in their faces and on their bodies or whatever it may be. So I would say 10 years. But then I also think that there's a different form of age gap in a relationship. I feel like there's people who are actually trying to have relationships work, right? So, they have a age gap, but they're in it for the right reasons. And I think there's also the stereotypes of sugar daddies, cougars, people just going through midlife crises and wanting something fun and different. You know what I mean? So as in I wouldn't say that they're really at it to give an age gap relationship a try. I'd say they're doing it for, I don't know, mutually beneficial outcome, I guess.
Transactional relationship?
Yeah, transactional. That's probably a better word.
But I feel that's specifically just sugar relationships, sugar mama, sugar daddy.
Yeah, but
what? Otherwise, what's the transaction?
Well, some people wrote in though, and their age gaps were in their stories that they told were upwards of 17 years. That to me would be bordering on someone that's 47 and 30. Maybe that's a sugary situation.
Sugary situation.
Well, I don't know how to put it. Is there a term for it?
It's sweet.
But that's but they were more coming from the standpoint most people were not in it for that reason. They weren't mentioning financial things or I'm with this person for X, Y, and Z. It was hey, I was attracted to him. I didn't know his age before,
sure.
And then we got into it. So I think there's a differing. But then also the reason why I think it's different is because I literally worked with a girl back in the day at the club, and now I see her on Facebook and stuff, and she 1,000,000% has a sugar daddy and is in a relationship like that where. All I see her post, photos and stuff is being in Lamborghinis and eating at fancy restaurants, flying first class around the world, being in cool places, hotels. And then the dude that she's with is 60 and she's 28.
Sure.
So I dare say she, didn't meet up with him and go, wow, this guy's really handsome and we have a lot in common. Let's let's get things going. You know what I mean? But
That's the question, isn't it? I think it's like, what are you getting out of the relationship? And sometimes when the gap's that big, it's assumed that it's a transactional relationship. Like the person who's older is getting this young hot piece and the person who's younger is getting pieces of items of clothing and whatnot, flights and holidays. And
so you're saying that
But what if there's no money involved?
She probably wouldn't be there, right? Like that's the whole point of a sugar daddy situation, is that it's like, as you said, transactional. Like he gets this young, thing on his arm that he probably gets to sleep with, makes him feel young, and
so
maybe
this is
remind him of youthful days, and then she gets to be flown for, like, she would experience things that come with age and wealth that she might not be able to experience without him. You know what I mean? So
my take is that that's one quite common scenario in terms of these age gaps, that you see that in some way like the person who's younger is benefiting from it in that sense. But I've also seen plenty of relationships where they are maybe like both, really good looking and fit, and it's not so much like you've got heaps of money. It's just like they've found themselves being attracted to one another and there is a big age gap, and maybe the younger person just actually still works for themselves and makes their own money, and that's not what it's about. So what do you think is coming into play there?
Well, that to me is what I see as like a more genuine like attempt at a relationship. Whereas these ones, like, I don't even consider them relationships. Like the sugar daddy scenarios, the cougars that just want to, have a young dude on their arm, or someone who, as you said, like maybe gets divorced from a partner, midlife crisis, and just like looks for a young fling. Like that to me is really different to like people that like bond over something, find a connection.
Well, it's still a relationship. It's just maybe not a love match.
Yeah, but it's like rent a girlfriend or rent a boyfriend, like that to me is not really, like, if a relationship is contingent on me flying you around the world and purchasing you things, and if I stop doing that, you're not going to be around, then that to me is not really a relationship. I would say.
But they're still providing companionship to one another. They're both benefiting from the relationship in different ways. Like that's what they value in life. So who's to say that's not a real relationship? To them it is. Just because there's circumstances involved that you don't necessarily align with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand the perspective. It's just how I view it.
Back to what I said about them being, or maybe looking more suited, or looking like they have a genuine connection. I feel like you can kind of tell when you look at two people, their body language. It's so obvious sometimes, like whether or not they're actually into one another. As someone who's dated, like, it's not ridiculous age gaps, but
no, you can be honest. This is a safe space.
I think the biggest age gap I had was probably, I think it was 7 or 8 years, and
that's nothing.
It felt big at the time.
We're 3. That's not that much. It's only double and a bit.
But I was in high school.
That's weird.
It is weird. Yeah.
Cool.
So
how old were you? Just to clarify, we're not breaking any laws by talking about this.
No, I was 16.
Thank God.
Oh no, sorry, 17.
All right. That's even better.
I was 17, yeah.
How did you meet someone that was that age?
I had a friend.
Like 17, I was going to school, going to basketball practice, going home, having dinner with my parents.
Yeah, it was year 12, and I had a friend who would take me to like these parties where like older people would hang out, and he was also older than me, so he went clubbing, and then so I found myself in like this kind of like a party scene basically. And so he took me to this party once, and this guy was there, and we just like hit it off, and then I told him how old I was, and he was like, yeah, that's okay. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he kind of said like, I didn't think you were that young, which is kind of always the story I feel in these situations.
Well, I mean, I can understand that, right? Because if you're in a location that you need identification to be over 18 to enter, and then
I wasn't. It was a party. It was like an intimate house party, but still, it was like I was around people who were a bit older than me. And we hit it off, and we ended up dating for like quite some time. However, it was never really official. It was kind of awkward. And I think it's because of my age. He felt weird saying that he was dating someone in high school. So
weird to say it, but it wasn't weird to do it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yes.
Stand up, dude.
So at the time, I thought it was really cool and fun and exciting. Obviously, I'm hanging out with people who are older, doing different things. They're going out to pubs and stuff. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like,
so overall, negative or positive experience?
I had a mostly positive experience, but I constantly felt like I was like wasn't good enough. Like I was, because of my age, it's like he refused to kind of commit to me properly and take me seriously as a person, basically.
Okay.
Even though he treated me really well and like was a really lovely guy, never did anything wrong by me, was always really respectful. And yeah, there was nothing wrong. It was just that it was the age gap was a little bit how you going. And like looking back now, I'm like, God, if I can't imagine dating a 17-year-old at 25 like that. That's really weird.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But at the start, you said that age gap to you was like 15 years.
You know, I'm
And
saying
now-
that's where it's a bit like that's a really big age gap to me.
Sure.
I'm not saying this age gap wasn't noticeable. I'm just saying that, like, and as I said, the younger that you are, I think the more of a difference it makes. So, like 7, 8 years when you're older, I feel is like less.
Oh, nothing, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, like, you're not going to, like, a 50-year-old and a 57-year-old, you're not going to bat an eyelash at that, are you? But 17 and, like, 25 sounds a bit how you're going.
It's because, I think it is a bit
Yeah,
harsh going.
well-
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you're old enough to consent and you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's weird. It's one of those situations where it's like legally all good, fine, but like frowned upon, you know? And like I said, when I got to 25, I was like, that's weird. I cannot imagine any of my friends dating someone in school. It was really weird.
That's probably the element that makes it a bit weird, is that the 17-year-old probably doesn't have like the emotional
No.
capacity, strength, life experience, street smarts even, or just ability to make those sort of decisions,
Yeah.
whereas the 25-year-old is kind of coming at it from a different place. So it's like almost they're responsible for this situation that's occurring. So, I mean, that to me is why it's a bit, it's a bit hazy, regardless if the
Yes.
person is really mature for 17
Yes.
and like, they can legally
Which is what I was
consent,
told
but
constantly. It was, you're so mature for your age.
what's happened? Because has it gone downhill?
Yes,
You're like the most immature person I've ever met.
Very funny. Very, very funny.
Do you think that there's a difference, like the way I would say I see things when it comes to like the media's portrayal of age gaps and stuff, is that for men and women it's different. For example, within like pop culture, like we see Leonardo DiCaprio, it's like almost like a running joke of the world that like, he's like 50 now and he only dates women that are, what is it, under 25 or
25
something,
and
right?
younger. Yeah,
Like,
he
that's
literally splits up with them before their 25th
that's
birthday.
that's a crazy age gap in
Yeah,
my
it's
opinion.
crazy.
But I would say that also when you look at stuff like that, he's almost perceived as like, that's weird and like he's creepy. You know what I mean? It's like that's the narrative that's pushed when it's a bloke. Whereas I would say maybe when there's older women dating younger men, that's not how it's really perceived. Like, do you think?
Really?
Well, yeah. Like, didn't Demi Moore date like Ashton Kutcher? She wasn't seen as like a creepy woman, or
When?
like
I don't know their age gap, to be honest.
didn't like.
I thought they were the
Isn't
same vibes.
Nick Jonas with that Priyanka lady who's like significantly older than him? And
Is she much older than him?
yeah,
How much?
Quite older. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that there's like quite a significant age gap. Whereas, I don't think those women are looked upon as like creepy and jokes aren't made about them. And, like Ricky
No,
Gervais
that people
made
make
jokes,
jokes about that guy. Aaron Taylor Johnson is with someone who I think was family friends with his parents when he was younger, and was like a mentor for him in work maybe or
Who
something.
is he,
She
sorry?
was his boss.
No,
or
who is
something.
he? Excuse my ignorance.
He's an actor.
Okay.
So he's a bit older now, but she's like 23 years older than him. And they started dating when he was quite young, like I think either like late teens or early 20s. Big gap for that age. Big gap. To the point where everyone's like grooming vibes, like very much that's the situation. Weird. She was like a mentor in his life in some way or whatever, however she was. And people are saying, like, still now, but there are just ongoing jokes about him needing to leave her, basically. And like, why? Oh, that's so, like, for example, when they go to like red carpets together, people are like, oh, that's so nice that he's taken his grandma out. Like, that's.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that it's almost like still mocking him for dating a grandma instead of like.
No, it's the
mocking
other way
her
around.
for-
It's very much the other way around. So I don't know that I just necessarily agree with you there.
okay.
I just think it's more common that you hear about older men with younger women. And so thus the conversation is louder from that perspective.
Sure, but when it comes to, let's say, seeing them. So let's say you saw on the street, you and I are going for a walk and you see a 60-year-old dude with a 25-year-old girl. Like, what's the initial thought that comes into your mind?
Mine is, that's weird. What are you doing? Who's getting what from this relationship?
Yeah, but
Got money.
what would be your thought if you saw the opposite? So if you saw an older
I would
woman,
think the exact same thing, to be honest. That's my own perspective. I wouldn't think like, go you, woo.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
not my perspective, if that's what you're getting at.
Okay. No, I'm asking. I'm not trying to get.
I would find it weird either way. I think it's like uncomfortable and yucky. That's my own perspective. Sorry to people who are in relationships with large age gaps. I just think what I struggle with is to understand what they're connecting on. With an age gap that's like, for example, 20 years, which happens, for example, what we just spoke about, what on earth do you have in common?
Yeah, and
especially when you're really young and you start the relationship there. Not when you're older and you've kind of lived a full life and you're 40 and 60 and you both have maybe a bit more in common, you've had kids, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're
I would say it's like comes down to like life alignment and life experience.
Like,
you
what
know,
do
it's
you-
like at 20 when you've just come out of school and you know you haven't even really been able to spread your wings yet. You know, like you probably haven't even left home. Like you have nothing
in common.
Studying, working a small job, and you're dating someone who's like could be top of their career field, working for 20 years. Like you know, perhaps as you said, been in plenty of relationships, married, divorced, kids. Travel, you know, just like there's so many things. It's like, what do you discuss? Like, how do you connect outside of the physical? Which I'm sure, you know, the older person is loving that they get to be, you know, physical and physically intimate with someone that's younger. But it's like,
For some reason, the younger person is too. A lot of the time,
what they're enjoying the physical element with someone.
Yeah, of course.
Older. You reckon?
Plenty of younger people are attracted to older people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't happen, would it?
Well, depends. If the transactional element is not there, then perhaps it wouldn't.
But sometimes they are.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's.
And then I go into like, what's your relationship like with your parents?
Are you insinuating mummy daddy issues?
Yeah.
Oh.
I do wonder.
What is it? What is that said to
Is something
mean?
lacking?
Is it said to mean that if you had a poor relationship with a parent, that you're looking for that in someone?
I think that's generally
means?
the conversation, is that there was something that was lacking from your youth and now you're searching for it when you're a bit older.
Gotcha.
Or there's a comfort, there's some lack of stability, there was you might have had a father but not a father figure, you know, and then that's what you're looking for when you get a bit older because you never had that, so it's like you're kind of filling the holes from your childhood.
I would say that I also think about, though, the fact that at, let's say, 20, I not only like knew nothing about the world, but just my like emotional intelligence. Like, you know, I think back to
yours especially.
Oh, thanks, mate. I think back to when we dated the first time, right? But just, you know, it was so different to how it is now, simply because of our age, right? So if I was the age I am now, or even older, like let's say I was 35 and then went back and dated 20-year-old Jad, like, and I don't mean to be rude, but personally, I wouldn't have like stood for like half the drama, you know, like if something like that happened, I would have just gone, I'm not dealing with this.
Oh,
like,
but
I'm
ditto.
not in it. I'm not in it for this, you know, but I'm saying, so when those relationships occur, often there's going to be someone with like such a vast, you know, emotional intelligence difference, like on the spectrum of, you know, because I would say that your emotional intelligence is sort of correlates with your chronological age. Like that's how I would see it for most people. And it's not saying that younger people aren't emotionally intelligent, but I think it is definitely something that grows.
Well, it's life experience, isn't it? A lot of the time you have to learn those lessons. That's how you grow that.
Yeah. And so, I see it as like an odd thing where I think you face probably more barriers and like, you know, hurdles to jump than a relationship with a closer, you know, age gap. But
so are you saying the person who's older is generally less emotionally mature and that's why they're connecting with people who are younger?
Yeah, I think that could be a fact. That's not what I was saying, but it's definitely a factor. I'm saying that like probably the older person is more, you know, emotionally intelligent. The younger person's yet to probably develop that. So it's going to be this weird discrepancy. But I also agree with you that perhaps this is like a non-emotional intelligent person who can't connect with people their own age and struggles because, you know, let's say they're 35, 40 and they're connecting with another 35, 40-year-old and they're bringing a lot of pretty much shit to the table or poor behavior, poor communication. Like someone their own age is going to go, I'm not going on 10 dates with this idiot. Whereas like someone who's a bit younger, they might see, oh, they drive a nice car and they go to nice restaurants and they pay for me for things. And like I can see past that because I'm getting all these other things. Whereas someone their own age. So I can see how, the the lack of sort of emotional intelligence with age could also be a factor why they go for
Absolutely.
the younger type. You know?
Especially when the person who's older, I find, hangs out with their partner's friends more. Like they don't have their own friends their own age as well. I find that really, that's
So
a bit of a giveaway.
The older person in the relationship hanging out with the younger person's friends? Is
Yeah,
that what
like
you're saying?
they're connecting better with the younger person's friends than anyone of their own age group.
Yeah, sure. So it's just
So-
like Peter Pan, like someone that
Literally.
never grew up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had someone write in and their experience was not like, oh, we struggle with the age gap, but she said that she was actually 4 years older than her partner. But then all her friends were dating people that were like 8 to 10 years older and like married and kids, right?
Okay.
So if you think about that, that's the 10 years older than
Yeah,
her
yeah.
and then he's 4 years younger. So it's actually like a 14, 15-year age gap. And she said that he really struggled to connect with her partners, like husbands and stuff.
Course.
Because like, you know, he was 25 or whatever
Yeah.
and they were 40,
Of
you know? So
course.
it's like a very different
Fair enough.
time in life. So, which I didn't even think about that. It's like
Yeah.
the social element. It's like of connecting, you know, because when you like, my friends are similar age to you, so you connect with them easy.
Yeah.
Likewise, you know what I mean? Whereas like if mine were 15 years your senior, you might be like, oh, I don't really have much in common with these dudes. And, you know, it would
Yeah.
be tough. And that
It would be
that would be
harder.
another, I would say, like hurdle within the relationship, you know?
Have you had any experience with a big age gap?
Yep.
What's the grin? What's this weird grin thing that you're doing?
Well, you said you had a big one at 7 years, and I was like, well, that's not even that big.
But I was 17.
Yeah, I wasn't that much older.
Okay. Well, divulge, please.
I went on a date. So as in, we didn't, not like you, we didn't date for a long time.
Okay.
I realized pretty quickly this wasn't going anywhere. I went on a date with a 44-year-old when I was 24,
That's pretty
23.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's giving Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't coerced or groomed. It was just like we met and she actually said, do you want to go on a date? And I went, yeah, why not? And then I was like,
Was it fun?
oh, it was fun.
It's okay. You can be honest.
It was fun, I would say,
I
for
will
the
keep
fact,
the ring though.
It was fun for the fact that I knew it wasn't really going anywhere, so I could sort of just relax. And I think
Okay.
that after like an hour or two, she realized the same thing. Like it was a very honest conversation, you know, like I think, you know, you just, yeah, I was there, and this is going to sound funny, but I actually was a tradie at the time. Like I was a young tradie, and she was like a head exec of like a huge like construction development company, and I was actually working on one of her properties that she was developing, right? So she was like the big boss, and I was just like this little grunt.
Is
know
that
what I
how
mean?
you
So-
met?
No, it's not how we
Oh.
met. It was just a coincidence. But I'm just saying, like, there was this huge, like, weird power
Yeah.
dynamic, you
Of
know?
course.
Like she had her own really nice, beautiful house and cars and stuff, and I was like living in this dirty share house with lads, you know, and
Yeah.
there was mess every, you know, it was just like such a weird disparity that, you know, I would have really struggled to see that go anywhere, you know what I mean? Whereas like some people that wrote in were like, yeah, I have a 15, 20-year age gap, and like it's the best,
Yeah.
most secure relationship I've ever been in, and you know, it
Why?
works, you know?
Why would you not have seen it go anywhere? If you've got an attractive woman who's successful, got her own house, you know what I mean? Like what rules that out
Kids
for you?
is probably a big well, what ruled it out for me was that I just didn't want to be with someone 20 years older.
Sure.
Like it was plain and simple. Like
Okay.
I wanted to be with someone similar to my age and similar like stage in life,
Yeah.
really. And
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got this like successful woman who's, you know, done really well for herself, and then is what comes across to me is like lonely going on dates with 20-year-olds.
yeah, I wouldn't disagree. It is like
Yeah,
an
it's such an
interesting path.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people just don't find their person, you
Mm.
know, and like perhaps they get to a stage in life where they don't give up, but you know, they go, okay, well, I might as well.
So you never dated with a big age gap?
No, I never dated with a big age
I don't know
gap.
if I
No,
I don't
like
know
1
if
year
I count
older.
a date, like one date.
Yeah,
It doesn't
like-
really count.
Dated for a while, like a girl maybe 1 year older or two, but not like a.
That's not-
not
yeah.
an age gap, I
No.
would say. But is there like a line you think when it comes to age where it like is murky waters, or like it,
Yeah.
you know, it comes into
For
like
me.
grooming or
I think it's
coercion?
Well, yeah,
or
like when they're
manipulation?
younger and like, you know, if you're 18 and they're 38, that's
18 and
weird.
38, yeah. But what about
That's
your
super weird.
going back to your 17, 25?
Yeah.
Like,
That's borderline.
but would it change? Does it change with sexes? So like you being the 17-year-old
No.
girl, does it change if it was a 17-year-old boy dating a
don't.
25-year-old girl? I'm saying like, do you feel differently about it? So you're
No,
saying,
not at all. I think it's weird. I also dated a guy in high school who there was a girl who he was family friends with, So we would have been similar, even 16 maybe. And I think she was like 22. And he left me for her, basically. It was hilarious. We broke up in the library. It was the whole thing. He started crying and I was like, why are you crying? Like, you're the one who's essentially told me that you basically started chatting to someone else who's also older and your family friend. Anyway, everyone found it really, really weird in the school. And she like came to our like drama recital. It was just weird. And I found that really uncomfy. Like, I was like, why is she interested in a 17-year-old? So I personally think my stance is, what the hell are you connecting on? Why can't you find someone who's your own age? Like, what's going on there? I don't understand what you have in common, and I find it difficult myself to personally understand those relationships. Some people have really successful relationships with big age gaps. I'm just curious in the psychology of it all, to be honest. Like, I just want to know their history and like where they both came from and like how they both found themselves in this situation where they were both attracted to people who are completely different ages.
It's funny that you say that you don't see a difference between the sexes, though, because I personally do.
Really?
In the fact that, well, I think about it like this now, that we have a son, right? Like, let's say we have a 17-year-old son and a twin 17-year-old daughter, right? We got Fletch and Florence. If Fletcher was dating someone at 17, just who cares what the name is?
Sorry.
It's irrelevant. If Fletch was 17 and dating a 25-year-old, I would think it was weird. Like, I would, but I wouldn't be as, like, I don't know, worried, I guess.
Is
Whereas
that a safety thing, though?
If I had a 17-year-old daughter dating a 25-year-old dude, I would just feel really differently about it.
Is that purely because a man is stronger than a woman? Like, what's the psychology there?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really... This has just come to me now, so I haven't really dived into my own.
I would hate it either way.
Thoughts about it. Yeah, I'm saying I wouldn't like it either way, perhaps, but I'm saying I would care a lot more. I'd feel a lot more unsafe, and I would worry a lot more about my daughter being in that situation than my son. As strange as that seems, it's just how I feel about it.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm saying I find it interesting that
I didn't even think of it from the perspective of safety, to be honest. I'm just thinking about it being weird.
What do you mean? Of course it's a safety thing.
No, I don't know. Maybe because like my experience in that, like I felt safe
you didn't
the whole
have
time.
That experience. But that's like saying we have plenty of people that wrote into us and was like, oh, we had my partner and I have a 15-year age gap and it works beautifully and we have 2 kids and it's lovely and it's the best relationship I've ever been in. And then we also have the people that write in going 15 years, I was emotionally manipulated, financially abused, like all these things. And so there can be such a vast difference, which I think at the end of the day, maybe is not only coming down to the age gap, but also the person in the age gap. So they'd probably be that way if their partner was 15 years younger or 5 years younger. It probably wouldn't matter. They'd probably be a rubbish person regardless. But yeah, I mean,
coercive control can happen at any age.
Yeah,
Financial
sure.
control.
But I'm sure it would be much easier with the gap because
completely.
With an age gap probably comes like,
there's
I don't know,
power
dynamic. A power dynamic and a struggle in that regard. So,
yes.
Yeah, and I mean, something that recurred when people were writing in was just like the expectations of partners at different ages, which is, I actually remember, and this was something that resonated with me, was I actually dated a girl before Jad and I dated for a little while, and she was about 5 years younger than me. And I felt that like there was like a large gap. And it was because we were quite young and just different stages of life. Like she wanted to party and muck around and, you know, spend money and do stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm getting to the age where I kind of want to like knuckle down, save, like think about future and do stuff. So you have these two people in a relationship.
Then you started dating someone who shops all the time.
Yeah, and partied all the time still. No, but you know, you have these kind of like unaligned expectations and wants, and it's like you're going to like butt heads, you know. And I think that happened in a lot of the people that wrote in. They were saying like, you know, my partner was 29, finished his master's degree and was working full time, and I was like 19 and like wanted to go and party with the girls and like come home at all hours.
That's what I mean. You're at completely different stages of your life. That's why I say like it makes more of a difference when one of the people are younger versus you're both a bit older and, you know, further along in life. There's maybe less of a difference in your lifestyles. But when your lifestyle's entirely different like that, I'm like, I just wonder, like, what are you connecting on? What are you doing that you enjoy together, you know? Like, I don't even want to go to the movies anymore. I find the movies annoying. I'm like, oh, I have to go and pay money to sit in someone else's chair and the volume's always off. Like,
Wait, what's the relevance here?
Well, because I'm older now. I'm over the movies. I want to watch at home in the comfort of my own room with the nice screen when it comes out eventually for free.
Yeah, but
versus young people like, let's go to the movies. It's a fun thing to do.
Nah, they just want to Netflix and chill. Don't worry about them.
I think they want to go to the movies. It's maybe a bad example, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Oh, at least we got there in the end. When it came to this, we had lots of people write in, and I didn't want this to be an episode where we read out people's situations and then discuss them because, I wanted to mix it up a little bit. But I did have two that came in which gave like a polar opposite view to the age gap. So I thought it might be interesting just to go through those because I have someone who wrote in with like a really positive experience and then someone who wrote in with the opposite. And I just thought it would be a nice little contrast to look at. All right. So the first one says, fresh out of a long-term relationship with someone my own age, I had zero clue what I was looking for next, mostly because I didn't expect to be single in the first place. Enter a work connection and a 17-year age gap. I was 23, he was 40. At the time, it felt complicated but exciting. Looking back, absolutely atrocious. Not to be dramatic, but there is no universe where a 23-year-old woman and a 40-year-old man are on the same page emotionally, at least not one with healthy boundaries and a meaningful connection. Ironically, I often felt like the more level-headed one in the relationship, which probably explains why he was drawn to someone significantly younger in the first place. Our fights didn't center around the age gap, though he also would say, I'd probably flirt with someone my own age at a bar continuously. That did come up. But the pattern was painfully familiar. Mood swings, insecurity, commitment issues, you name it. Okay. It was messy and confusing and a little bit embarrassing in hindsight, but also a very necessary detour because nothing shows you what you don't want like dating someone who treats you like a mirror for their midlife crisis.
Amen.
I honestly think the appeal for him in dating someone so much younger had less to do with love and more to do with control, or at least the illusion of it. A younger woman can be easier to impress, easier to influence, and less likely to call out emotional immaturity. It's like renting self-esteem for the price of a few fancy dinners and some pseudo-wisdom about jazz.
Wow.
There's a certain power dynamic that can feel flattering at first until you realize it's not the empowerment, it's pacification. And once that charm wears off, all you're left with is a man in his 40s trying to emotionally spar with someone who still has student loans and a group chat titled Hot Girl Council. 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
God, can I just say that was written beautifully?
Yeah, I also agree. It was well really,
articulated,
really well put, and yeah, I thought it was. It shines a light on the potential negatives that can happen in these scenarios, and what we did, talk about earlier, where it was like perhaps he can't connect emotionally with people his own age, so he tries to do it with someone younger. But then, when you bump into someone who probably is emotionally mature at that age, they're going to call you out on your rubbish anyway. But
and the fact that she felt more emotionally mature than he did at times just speaks volumes. Speaks volumes.
But I also really liked what she said, where she said like it feels like renting self-esteem.
Yeah,
like that was a really interesting take because it is someone older who might feel good having a young person on their arm, and they know that they can do that with a few fancy things, and it might make them feel good temporarily.
Like a nice dinner, yeah.
I'm sure it's not going to fill the void inside them. So I thought that was a really interesting take, and then I wanted to just give you guys.
Thank you for sharing. That was very well written.
Yeah, appreciate it. But I wanted to give you guys the opposite. So it says, I'm 23 and have been with my partner who's 37 for 4 years now. So obviously she met when they were 19. Yes, if you do the math, I met him when I was fresh 19 and he was 34. We met at our local coffee shop and would see each other every morning. I was living out of home and just had moved back to my small town after leaving to live in Sydney for 2 years. We got chatting one day at our cafe and I was immediately obsessed. So I got my girl detective hat on and did a very deep social media stalk and eventually found him. He had his age on Facebook on his info, so I knew how old he was. It didn't really bother me. He asked for my number a couple of weeks later and we went out on our first date. He didn't even know how old I was, nor did it come up in conversation until 3 dates in. When I told him, he was very shocked, but we decided just to see where things went. 4 years later, we have a dog and a cat and have just bought our first house together and are talking about futures of marriage and baby plans. Age gap relationships can be difficult. However, I'm a teacher and adore children. I dream about being a mother one day and don't have the desire to travel. My partner was a professional bodyboarder for 15 years and traveled around the world doing this, so we are both content, living in our small town and settling down. We both love each other so much, our families get along, my parents adore him, and it's been smooth sailing since we met. I've always been mature for my age, and I have no desire to party as I did this when I was quite young. It can be difficult sometimes feeling judgment from others, but I understand where it comes from. It's very strange and is quite a unique situation. However, I'm so excited for our future, regardless of our age difference, and hope this story can shed some light on the positives on dating someone older.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, and it seems like just the things fit. Like,
Yes.
you know, he doesn't want to travel as much because, you know, he
He's
experienced
done it.
life as a professional athlete who traveled the world. She partied early, so doesn't want, you know, so it's like all the stars are sort of aligning for them. Whereas, you know, other people wrote in and it was the opposite. It was like the older person wanted to settle down, the younger person wanted to pack up and, you know, backpack for 6 months. So, yeah, it's
So
just
they're on the same path now.
regardless
At
of
whatever
the age.
stage, yeah.
Yeah, and so the connection's there regardless of age, and as she said, she still feels judgment because, you know, perhaps he might literally physically look a lot older at
Well, of course.
35 and she's 19. She probably looks like a baby still. So, yeah, the judgment might be there, but she was, just saying that, you know, there's a positive spin to it as well.
And then, like I said, there's plenty that work, that work well. So it is very interesting, and I always want to know more, though.
Yeah, and I dare say that when you guys wrote in with all your experiences, I don't think it was skewed more one way than the other. So
Really?
there wasn't
That's
more
really
negative than
interesting.
positive. It was actually a lot of both, which was really nice, you know, because it's great to see that it works out for some people, and then also it's, you know, it's not nice to hear that, you know, people have had negative experiences. But there was actually this one funny one where a girl said that she went in this 10-year age gap. Guy was 10 years older. She said it was the worst thing ever. She hated it. She got out, and then she said, "But I'm in a relationship now with a guy who's 17 years older." And I was like, that's so funny. That it's like she experienced it.
She's
She
got a
was like,
type.
it's rubbish, and she was like, I'm going to double down and just
She
like
has got
and
a
double
type.
the age gap. So. Yeah, I would say overall we had positive experiences, negative experiences. You now, have a little, I don't know, idea about how we feel about it.
Maybe we're a bit too judgmental.
I don't think it's a place of judgment. I
Mine
think it's
is.
just, I mean, unaware. You haven't been in it, so you're just hypothesizing about,
Yeah, but
you know,
that's
what
judgment,
might
though.
might be.
You look at a couple and you pass judgment. Let's be honest. Come on.
Yeah, well,
not
I mean,
dilly-dally.
unless you're going to sit them down and learn about
Ask
the
all the
intricacies of their
questions, yeah.
life and then make your
And then
judgment,
go,
it's
no,
kind of
they seem like they really like each other.
yeah, that's kind of just what we do as humans.
I'm going
right?
to open my mind.
All right, I really like that. All right, guys, that's all we have for you with our little chat about that today. Hopefully,
Let us know what you think. Let us know where you sit on the fence, what you agree
or,
with.
you know, you can leave a comment and join the chat on
Yeah.
Spotify. So if you did want to give us your take on what you guys deem to be appropriate or not appropriate, and
Where
what
do
you
you
would
draw the
kind of
line?
stick your nose up at, or you feel free to let us know. But as always, we need to end our episode with an Ask Mum and Dad.
Can't believe you dated an old woman.
One date. All right, it says, "Hey, Lachie and Jad, what are your thoughts on right person, wrong time? I met someone 2 months ago. We went on several dates, 8, but who's counting? And mutually, we were having so much fun. There was not a single doubt or red flag in my mind. It was a slow burn, something new to me, which made me feel like this could be something serious. However, we were eventually intimate. Over the past 2-3 weeks, I felt a shift. Communication died off, no future plans were made, and overall it started to fizzle out. Initially, I was confused, as there had been no arguments or reason for this sudden change in behaviour. Initially, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, as he has a very high-stress job, however, eventually decided we needed to have a conversation. He expressed concerns regarding upcoming timing issues that may impact our ability to be committed to each other,
Blech.
which we both
Sorry.
agreed.
Oh,
Which we
God.
both agreed we wanted. Jad, just control yourself. I am traveling to Europe for 7 weeks in July, and he has travel plans for 2 to 3 months later in the year. We essentially agreed it was best to hit pause, as ending things now while we are civil will preserve the connection we had established, rather than entering a difficult period and potentially ruining it altogether. Therefore, the door will be left ajar, and I would be open to reconnecting with him again one day. I feel at ease that I can go traveling without that doubt in my mind, and knowing that I wouldn't have been able to give him my best self whilst away. However, I won't be letting the idea of him stop me from meeting new people and new experiences. Do you think right person, wrong time is a myth, or that some people genuinely come into your life for a reason? However, the reason may only be revealed much later in life. Thanks so much."
Okay. Yes, I believe right person, wrong time, because I'm looking at him. However,
I think you can go about it the
However,
right and wrong way.
right person, wrong time is not I'm traveling and I want to be single. To me, that's just like, let's say what it is. You're traveling and you want to be single for your trip. Both of you, sounds
Yeah,
like
you
it.
want to kiss a few Spaniards
Yeah.
and he wants to smooch a few
Yeah,
Greeks.
I love when people say like, we're gonna have a break because we're traveling. It's like, hang on, replace the word traveling with
Sleeping with
want to
other people.
hook up with other people.
Yeah, Jad and I...
But also,
Yeah.
I need to finish. I do know people who've done that and they've come home and hit it off and it's worked and they're together long term. So I kind of get it. However, at the same time, bit of a cop out.
Saying you kind of get it is one thing. Like, I kind of get all
Yeah.
perspectives. But what was your take on it? So hypothetically, we could have
Yeah,
done this,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying? Because
No,
you
no.
definitely wouldn't have been okay with this.
If you really genuinely connect and you can't get enough of each other, but you're both going on this trip and for some reason you're both on the same page of wanting to have one last hurrah, I've heard it. It happens and it works for some people.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I
But
don't know if I'm on
would,
the same page.
me personally, if I like you a lot, I'm going away. I don't need to go and sleep with 3 other people before I lock you down. You know what I mean? That's just me personally. I'm not interested in that. I want to be with you. I don't care if we're not going to see each other for a couple of months because to me, like the rest of our lives is more important than 2 months with strangers I'm never going to see again.
Yeah.
That's
and
just my own perspective.
Just for clarity, like we are, right person, wrong time scenario.
Yes.
It worked out. But at the same time, when we split up the first time, it wasn't, hey, let's go our separate ways and see if we can smooch some
No.
people and travel and then we'll hit it off when it comes back. It was, hey, we're splitting up. And then we came back together randomly years later.
Without
it was not,
any intention of doing so.
Yeah, no intention of doing so. So I think if you're with a person that you really like and your intention is to get back with them, why are you ending it in the first place? And it also sounds like perhaps this was maybe something that he weaseled into your mind because you said that you got intimate and then there was less communication for a few weeks and then
fizzled, yeah.
he was worried about, losing this spark whilst traveling and then you were like, oh yeah, I want this door to be kept open. So I'm sort of just going to say I'm okay with this, even though, it's okay for you to say like, hey, I'm not okay with that. Like, I don't feel comfortable. Like, I really think you're cool and I like this spark and I want to see how things going. But like, if you go overseas and, intimate with other people, then I think this spark's going to be, pissed on. So.
I hate to be blunt, but the fact that you said that you guys already kind of seized a lot of your communication leading up to him then saying that and you then agreeing, like to me it just sounds like it had already fizzled and that was like an easy way to end things without saying, hey, I'm not actually into it anymore. That's it.
Sure. So maybe she was a bit more into it than him and he found like an easy way of letting her down by saying, I'm going away. I don't want this to turn into more.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very easy way to get out of something instead of being honest and upfront and just saying, look, I don't think it's going where I thought it was. I had a good time with you. That's it.
Yeah. And I know you said that it's the thought of him is not going to inhibit your experience
Stop thinking
overseas
about him.
and stop you from, having a good time and maybe meeting new people. So yeah, please don't let it do
Don't
that.
let
because
it. Do not.
It sounds like he's probably not as genuine as you
Yeah.
in that connection of coming back and giving things a shot.
Unfortunately, agree. I don't think you should. If you're already thinking in your head, right person, wrong time, then clearly there's a part of you that wants it to continue. And I'm not getting that energy from what you're saying about him.
Yeah.
So I don't think go overseas with that in your mind. Let it out of your brain. Get over it. Mourn him now. Go overseas. Have your fun, babe.
What happens if he hits her up when he gets back?
Whatever. Good. Have your fun then as well.
Cross the bridge when you come to it?
Yeah, but like don't put that in her head.
Yeah.
No, I don't like false hope. I hate it.
That's not false hope. That's I'm devil's advocate.
Be
I'm
a
just
realist.
giving you lots of options.
I think that people have all the information in front of them and they choose to ignore it. That's what I think people do sometimes. It's like he is making it very clear that he is not as interested in you. Unfortunately, sorry, hate to say it. It's very clear to me that he doesn't want to be with you right now for whatever reason. Don't read between the lines. Stop reading between the lines. It's like that movie. What's it called?
Shrek.
He's just not that into you. Stop reading between the lines. People need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
There's no lines sometimes. It's just, it is what it is. And if you're the
You
exception,
seem
he'll
like-
make it obvious.
It seems like this has brought up something from your past. Are you okay?
I used to
You're
do this
getting-
all the time. I'd read between the lines. I go, but what if this? What if that? And then I always feel let down. And I go, well, he was actually very clear in that he didn't want anything long term. And then I was like, maybe I'll be the one that's the exception. No, you're not. You're not until you are. And until you are, you're not. So
All right, we're going to need someone to cut off Jad's mic so we can end this episode. She's really getting into it. Guys, I'm going to leave it there, actually. Let Jad finish off with that.
yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
We appreciate you guys tuning in every week. It means a lot to us. We love having you listen. We love having a little community write in, tell us your stories, and it means a lot to us. So we hope you're enjoying Mad About You, and we look forward to chit-chatting next week. If you did want to leave a review or a comment, it really helps us, so we appreciate that. But have a lovely week.
See you guys soon.
Bye.